Welcome back to Beer with Nat. On every episode, I share a beer and a chat with people who do what they love for a living. They work in the beer industry. Today's guest is Amber Dernulc, Procurement Manager at Jolly Good Beer. Amber tells me all about her role and the skills it requires, how she got into beer distribution in the first place, and how her previous experience in theater and film production proved surprisingly helpful to what she does today. We also have a bit of real talk towards the end of our chat, as Amber lets us in on some of her concerns about the future of beer from her perspective in distribution. But don't worry, there's always a positive note to end on, what she enjoys most about being a part of the beer industry. Here she is.
So this is Burning Skies Saison Provision. I think from when I started working in beer in the first pub, which was the Old Red Cow. Are you aware of the Old Red Cow?
No, I've not been.
It used to be kind of one of the really good pubs on the circuit.
Okay.
And that's where I first started working with
Thank you.
Hannah Davidson.
Oh, lucky you.
It's her fault I work in beer, basically.
I know exactly who to blame, who got me into beer as well.
Yeah, and I started working with her, and kind of my sort of first memories of beers that I loved were always from Burning Sky. And Buxton was a big one as well. Mm-hmm. Like they're kind of the two, this is like 5 years ago, so kind of the two big standouts. And I've got a big love for like wild fermentation and mixed ferm, and this is kind of just a sterling example.
Yeah, definitely.
Of it. And you always know what you're going to get with them.
As soon as you brought the beer out of your bag, I was like, oh, I'm so excited to see this. So cheers. Thanks for bringing it. Lovely story behind it. Delicious beer.
Yeah. Oh, it's so good.
I just feel like at peace when I drink this beer.
It's so
There's
lovely.
something, so relaxing about it. You've got that nice sort of fruity tartness, but then all of that lovely saison character with some yeast character in there, and the lovely rustic malt character too.
Yeah.
It's so good.
I want cheese and sunshine and to be in France, really.
Well, I can't transport you there, but
we can imagine.
We can have a nice chat. We're just going to pretend that we're there. Well, thank you very much for bringing this. That's definitely getting us off to a good start. So you are the procurement manager for Jolly Good Beer, a London-based beer distributor. What does your job entail?
London-based.
You're not London-based.
I'm London-based, but
Yeah.
our warehouse is in Norfolk.
Oh, wow.
So
okay.
we're right out in the sticks, but I'm London-based,
You're
so
here.
I work out
Okay.
of Hackney Brewery.
Okay.
Those lovely men put me up, which is
There
nice.
we go. So you are the London base
Yes.
for Jolly Good Beer, but everything else is housed out in Norfolk.
Yes.
Oh my goodness, wow. Do you get out there often?
No, there's
Okay,
no
you don't
need
to. Okay.
I've been to the warehouse 3 times.
Oh wow.
It's just a big cold store
Yeah.
and a dirty cat. It's just a little ginger farm cat.
Oh, that sounds so sweet. But it's all right, there's plenty of cats in London to spend your time with, I suppose. So yeah, what does your day-to-day look like in that role?
Well, I amble down to Hackney Brewery, where I'm based out of. I talk to the dogs that are there. Bruce and
So many
Gruff.
animals in your life.
Everyone knows who Bruce and Gruff are. And yeah, it's a very admin-based role, because it's essentially inventory management, constantly making contact with breweries, and keeping up that conversation, and then ordering beer, entering beer into the system, pushing it online. That's kind of it, really. And
Bringing beer in and getting beer out.
Yeah, I do very little of the getting beer out now, which is quite good. I've got a few accounts that I look after on a very informal account management basis.
Okay.
It's mostly WhatsApp based.
Is there someone else on the team who does that side of things?
Yeah, so we've
Okay,
got a few
great.
sales guys,
Okay.
which is good. So they kind of do all that, and then I work with them to organise beer for events as well.
Okay, so your focus mainly day-to-day is bringing the beer in.
Yes.
That then someone else will sell.
Yes.
So how do you make the decision for what beer comes in? Is that up to you to find the breweries, or is that up to...
Yeah, it is up to me. So I started with them in November, and I did the very unpopular thing of getting rid of a few breweries because they weren't selling. And the
Well,
thing
it
about
makes sense, you know.
distribution is you're not a charity. Like, you have to buy things that you know are going to sell.
Yeah, and the beer's not going to keep in good condition if it's just
No,
sitting there. So
it's not
doing
closed.
a further disservice to the brewery as well.
Absolutely. So I've the way I've always worked is try to maintain a maximum 3-week turnover with domestic beer.
Wow, that's
international's a lot longer, but yeah, I work on a little and often kind of basis rather than getting one pallet of 1 SKU or 2 SKUs and it sits there for 3 months. Like, that's not good for anyone. Even in cold storage, I kind of prefer to get things in and out really quickly. Mm-hmm. So I kind of pay attention to kind of what's going on via social media, like which brewery is being spoken about, and I'll either reach out to them or they'll reach out to me, or I'll make contact at a beer festival and kind of just try things. But yeah, it's kind of just
That's
keeping
so fun.
it,
You
keeping
get
it
to
ear
be
to the
on-
ground.
Yeah, the front lines, essentially.
Yeah.
So I think I'm really excited to talk to you because distribution is something that feels very behind the scenes in the beer world. It's not really something that people talk about. And it's so
No.
important for bars who want to stay cutting edge and make sure that they have the newest exciting, beers and breweries coming to them. You are the one who is making that connection.
Yeah.
So how does sort of beer get from point A to point B, and what interested you in playing that role in being the procurement person to bring the beer to the right bars?
Well, I started doing procurement back in the day when I was at Bottle Shop. I kind of fell into it accidentally. I went from being a sales coordinator role into looking after purchasing and kind of wound up doing all of domestic, a lot of European. It was just something I immediately loved because there's an element of logistics and timekeeping and kind of very small scale project management. And my life before beer was all events and films and TV and project management, creating things for specific timelines. So kind of those transferable skills I found really easy to just turn over. And yeah, that's kind of, I loved it, I enjoyed it, and it's really nice kind of watching the numbers go up and down, and you get something in and you try it, and then you realise that people enjoy it, so you can get more of it, and it kind of, you can influence people's decisions as well, and you can kind of help get people off the ground and give them a platform and give them a voice. Just start yelling about someone new, which is, I find that really exciting.
That is interesting. You've got this sense of power, that
Yeah.
you get to wield for good or evil. Yeah. I was looking through the Jolly Good Beer social as well, and it seems like you do a lot of work on there to release new stock all the time. So is that something that you manage, and
Yes,
what does that take?
that's me. I am the voice of the warehouse.
Wow. You speak for a building.
Yeah. Sometimes it's a van, but it's mostly me.
And how did you get your experience on social, and do you feel comfortable in that space, just sort of shouting about things and responding to people quite quickly? As you said, you're used to working in a time crunch and to a deadline, so maybe that's easy.
I've never sort of been officially social media trained, but I guess kind of just growing up with it in this day and age, you just become savvy to it. And I've always had my personal beer Twitter, where I'm quite shouty and opinionated, and like engaging with people on that is really nice, and I really enjoy it, and it's just transferring that across. And back at Bottle Shop, I was the one who wrote all the mailing lists, which was a really good way of talking about things and being conversational and engaging with people, and trying to inject a bit of humour as well, not being too serious
and
about
have a bit
everything.
of fun. Yeah, right. Beer is fun.
Beer is fun.
And I know sometimes we do forget that. That's very true. But I guess one serious thing: what if, in terms of supply and demand, you've got more people that want beer than there is stock? How do you deal with situations like those?
Oh, that happens all the time.
Yeah, I can imagine.
This is, I mean, as someone who buys in and sells stock, it's a recurring problem. I remember when Cloudwater releasing their Dipper series back in the day.
Yep.
And you would have 50 customers, 15 cases, and you're like, right, okay, this is...
How do we do this?
Yeah, and it is quite often the people who pay their bills on time and the people who are a showcase for beer. So you want it going to a popular beer shop where they know they'll move through stock quickly, rather than a newsagent in the middle of nowhere who will be sitting on it for 3 months.
Yep.
It's horrible to have to do that, but those are the calls you have to make. You have to be a little bit cutthroat. What I do now is we cut everything down to half cases, which makes things a lot easier, because obviously the more expensive beers are the ones everyone wants.
Yeah.
But
do they come in from the breweries that way, or you repack them?
No, we repack
into
them
12
into
cases of 12 typically.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
Just interesting. So they'll go a little bit further in that sense.
Yeah, so you get double the amount, and if it's really tight, I then restrict it, and I'm like, right, it's a half case per customer. If it's not, I'll be like, just buy as much as you want. But having the half case means that the smaller customers who know they won't get through the 24 just have the 12, and they have half the price to worry about as well. Yeah,
it's a good point. It's being mindful of how do you best serve the breweries, how do you choose your customers that are best serving you, and make sure that you work with them and reward them for the new and interesting beers. Yeah, okay. Absolutely. So lots of different things to think about in that sense.
We do try to be fair. In most cases we are fair. We just put it online and we're like, right,
come and get it.
We release stock at 9:30 every morning, so people know when it's going to happen, and we tweet saying this is online now, which I think is a very unique way that we do things at Jolly Good Beer.
Yeah, it's quite cool.
And previously it's been all weekly mailing lists, so 11 o'clock on a Monday, this is all the stock we have. But it's a difference from working with We have a B2B online store. So people log in and place their orders online without having to interact with a salesperson.
So this is your bar accounts and bottle shop accounts?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't do any direct customers, but at the bottle shop it was all emailing, manual processing of orders, which gives you a lot more control over where the beer's going, a lot more visibility on your stock. But this way is a lot quicker and easier for people to access, and it's all automated, which is good. Sometimes technology is good.
Yeah, right. Letting people sort of take a bit of the work out of it for you in that sense, when they can do it themselves and they know exactly what they're getting.
Yes.
So you mentioned you got your start in this sort of role at the bottle shop, and then you were at Cask International for a bit, and now you're at Jolly Good Beer.
Yeah.
So how did you make that transition from job to job, and what are some different things maybe you learned in each one that you've brought to where you are now? Some of the similarities or differences, perhaps, in the way those roles work to what you do now.
Yeah, well, I moved on to Cask International because I wanted to, which is kind of a step up the supply chain. So that's a platform that imports and then sells onto distributors who then sell on to the customers.
Okay, so instead of just sourcing from local UK breweries, you had to figure out how do we do the import thing. So lots more paperwork, I take it.
Well,
or different
I didn't do the paperwork, luckily.
Oh, you're lucky, yeah.
You just
Someone was
have
doing
the lovely
it.
people that you just pay to do that.
Yep.
It's great. So that's kind of an interesting way, and it's kind of selling things before you get them, but then making sure that you've got enough to sell. And it's a lot more toing and froing, and your numbers, because they're so much bigger, are a lot more delicate. So you're kind of looking at 10 pallets instead of just one.
Oh, wow.
And it's, the scale just increases. But that was good. Learned a lot there. And then Jolly Good Beer, Ivan was just looking for someone else to join the team, and he was doing all purchasing himself. And then I said that I was looking for something. So I just went and joined him.
Perfect.
It's been good because I work remotely as well.
Yeah.
It gives me a lot more flexibility and freedom, and it's really good for my mental health. Like, sometimes I just can't get out of bed in the morning, and that's fine because I can just sit in my laptop there and
do
get
your work
things
and be in
done.
touch with everyone. That is quite amazing.
Nice. Yeah.
Which is different too from a lot of other people I've spoken to who may be based in a brewery or based in an office. You can still be a part of the beer world in an interesting sort of work from home capacity.
Yes, or working from France as I did the other week.
Oh, lucky you. That's amazing. Wow.
Didn't get much work done, but it was really nice.
But you got a little break.
Yeah.
Okay, that's good. So in terms of some of the skills, you mentioned you did a lot of project management in the past, so I do want to talk about your background. We'll get to that and what you studied. But what are some of the other skills that you need? It sounds like you need to be really good with numbers to kind of keep an eye on what's coming in, what's going out.
Yeah.
Logistics, having good organizational skills. What are some of the things that you pride yourself on that make the job a bit easier?
Communication. Communication is key, actually. I'm good at talking. I've always been good at communicating, but it's being able to build up and sort of manage the relationships with every brewery you deal with, and kind of knowing which different voice you speak to them in. Like, I know some breweries I can just send 3-word emails, and it's a very quick rapport, whereas others it's more formal. Just being adaptive and being friendly as well. You need to be someone that people want to sell beer to, especially in cases like Mills Brewing. They could sell to anyone, but they've chosen us to do a certain amount, which is really nice.
Yeah, that's got to feel quite good that they want to work with you.
Yeah. They're great as well.
Yeah, I haven't tried any of their beers yet, but I've only heard amazing things. So I really need to.
Yeah, so administration as well. It's all very, very process driven. What I do, it's, kind of looking at the inventory, seeing what you need, placing the orders, and then the literal process of getting that from an invoice online to a sale there are several steps that involve spreadsheets and uploading and CSV files and harvesting data from everyone. It's very full on, but you kind of get your processes. And you just
Once you've created your own system, then you know how to apply it to everything.
Yeah.
So being very detail-oriented sounds very important in this job. Before we move on to talking about what you did before you got into beer, I just wanted to ask, I know a big thing for Jolly Good Beer is the fact that you guys have a cold store. So do you just want to mention that, sort of why that's important to beer?
Yes.
And why that's unique for what you guys do?
Cold chain is so important. So Ivan started with a cold store. So at Bottle Shop we had a big push towards cold distribution when I was there. We had the cold store, we had cold vans, which was great, and everything coming over from America was sent in cold ships as well. So beer doesn't age as quick when it's cold. You'll be amazed at how quickly it does age when it's ambient compared to when it's refrigerated. You can do these experiments yourself at home. Literally buy 2 cans of the same thing, a really nice fresh hoppy beer, put one in the fridge, put one on a shelf, drink them a month later, and you can taste the difference. You can feel the lack of character that's left in that can. And that's why we find it so important. We are pushing with all our breweries as well to try and get the back-end cold chain as well. So Cloudwater have just started working with Hedges, who are I think they primarily deal with food, so they already have a cold network over the UK.
Oh, that's interesting.
So we use them to deliver beer as well, and they look after their beer and they don't treat it like a pallet of bricks. And I get increasingly frustrated when we get pallets from breweries that have just been treated like they're bricks, and you have so many cases wiped out because the forks have gone into the side, and it's just sad because that's costing someone money, and quite often the haulage company, they don't care, they won't pay for it.
It's just another product to them,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
It's like, this isn't a pile of bricks, this is a product, this has got like love and care put into it, and people want to buy it. And yeah, we're kind of pushing for people to start using this, and we may just switch out, that we be like, look, we're going to take over that now, and do back end cold chain.
Well, it's exciting. So making sure beer, the love and care that goes into it, makes all the way to the bar itself, and that it's served the right way, at the right temperature.
Absolutely.
Well, there you go. That's homework for everyone. Do an experiment. And see how your beer changes, whether it's at a refrigerated temperature or at ambient. Okay, I was doing some research on you before my interview, and I learned that you have a degree in costume and theater design. That's so fascinating and has nothing to do with beer.
It has nothing to do with beer.
Tell me all about that. What got you into that, and then we'll kind of work our way up to how the heck you got into the beer world.
Well, back in the day at school when I was doing my A-levels, I did 3 art-based A-levels because I was an art nerd. One was art and design, one was theatre design, and one was textile art.
Okay.
I just loved costumes, and whether it was on the theatre, I've always loved the theatre growing up, but whether it was on stage or on a film, that was always like the key element for me. It was never sort of the direction of photography or sound or anything like that. It was always, what are they wearing and how does that tie into the story? How is that important? And it really is. So I went to university to be a dressmaker initially, and then I realised that while I was good at dressmaking, I was much better at the design side of things. And on my university degree, you either go down the dressmaking side or the design side. And then while I was doing design, I discovered construction. And I had a great mentor who was teaching me construction, and I went and learnt how to use AutoCAD at the National Theatre.
That's a program that like architects use,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
oh my
yeah.
goodness, wow.
So
okay.
it's you all the sets that you will build to go on.
You are essentially designing that in this computer program. Oh my goodness, okay.
So my university was amazing. So we had an acting department, film department, and obviously costume as well. So we would create sets for films, we would create sets for theatre. So in my third year of university, I was able to work with the designers from my year and the actors from my year, and we'd put together these
and actually put productions together. Wow.
And I'd build them all. And I sort of taught myself further with AutoCAD because it wasn't taught on my degree at that point. It is now, because I was like, you should be doing this. And then kind of left university as a set builder, as a carpenter.
Oh my goodness. So doing the computer design and the build once you had created the design.
Yeah.
You go, girl. That's amazing.
And then I got a job out of university with a set building company. I did sort of 6 weeks there in my last year, just kind of learning, kind of on the job, kind of like what people do, what the processes are. I worked with kind of each individual department. I spent time on set with the carpenters, I worked with the painters, I worked with some model makers, I worked in the draftsman department, I worked with the project managers, and I was kind of able to see how it all goes.
And how it all works together in that sense. Okay.
It was a great time because it's when the Olympics were on, so I was able to go over to Stratford and help build things that were going in there.
Wow,
which
that's
was really
very cool.
I've got great memories of that.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so I got a job there afterwards. So I was working there for a year on internship, a very low paid internship, but it was still paid, which is the important thing.
That's something at least, that's
Something.
true. And at least you do reflect on it positively, so.
Yes, yeah. And yeah, I just learned so much, and the thing that I learned, I think that's kind of always been there and that's always stayed with me is project management, and starting something from point A, getting it to point B, and following it through a process to make sure that happens at the time it needs to happen, and there's no delays or things happening either side of it that cause problems to end up with delays. it's a thing.
And like, what a useful skill in a way that you didn't realize. I can hear it now, how it all makes sense, what you do, and being able to use those same abilities, not only to get things from A to B, but to understand how everybody works together.
Yes.
And being in that space right in the middle of the beers being made and the beers being sold.
Yeah.
What is your role? How do you understand that whole chain?
Yeah.
Very
I remember
cool.
getting a great piece of advice from one of the senior project managers, and he went, you don't need to know how to do everything, you just need to know someone who knows how to do those things. So I don't necessarily need to know all of the technical information to do with the beer. I just need to know the end product, and it's like, right, I know that you've made that well. I don't need to be in control of the logistics, but I find someone who is in control of the logistics. I get it sent to my warehouse. I'm physically not doing that, but I've got my warehouse guys that are doing that. And then I kind of sit there from
The puppet master.
making sure it all happens together, and then my drivers take it out, and then I know that the guys in the shop are going to look after it, and you've got like the end drinker that's happy,
And
hopefully.
having a good experience,
Having a great experience,
Because you helped pull all those strings to get it there.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
It's it's a really unusual position to be in the industry as well, because there's, I think for every distribution company, you have umpteen salespeople and delivery drivers, but you kind of only have one purchaser. Or I don't know if some of the bigger guys have got purchasing teams, but I've only ever worked with departments that've got the one or two people purchasing. So yeah.
So how the heck did you get from there to beer?
Yeah, how did I get into beer? So after my year came to an end there, this is where the tricky bit, like if we want to get into a creative industry, things like events and set building and project management for creative things, it's the whole working for free thing. So I came out and I had a job as an art director on a film, but they had no money for it, which is fair enough. But I had rent to pay, so I was working in a bar, as well as doing all these other creative bits. I had a great summer doing illustration, doing set building, doing painting, doing prop making, anything I could do. I was working in a lingerie shop at one point.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, and I was a creative for a pub group as well, so I was doing all their chalkboards and going around doing paintings in there, which was great fun. It was a great summer. And then I was working for an event company, driving their van around the country, creating all their cocktail menus, running these bars. So we'd like drive it to Edinburgh and set it up at a food festival. You sort of have your team in Edinburgh and you have to brief them all, and you run that for a week, and then you break it down and drive
marketing
it back.
activations and pop-ups and things.
We did so much activation with big people like Diageo, but we were doing the big thing with Hooch, when Hooch had its big comeback a few years ago. And these brands like Montano cider, which is actually a really nice cider. They make it like Prosecco, so it was
nice. Very sparkling, refreshing.
Very sparkling.
Okay.
It's lovely. Yeah, so there was that, and then unfortunately that company went bust.
Okay.
Owing me personally a lot of money.
Oh no, you went in there to make some money because the rest of the industry wasn't paying.
Yeah.
Oh,
so,
jeez.
and because they'd promised me, this was September that I did my last jobs with them, because they'd promised me work for the subsequent months, I then had nothing to go to, and it was like everything just stalled.
And were you building things for them during this whole process? Like you...
No,
you were just helping to be that project manager and pull everything together.
Yeah.
Okay.
They didn't need things building. I think I probably did get there down with my drill a few times. Just
what
just
needs
because.
fixing?
I love my drill. It's great. Yeah. So they went under, and obviously I don't know if you've ever been with a company that have gone bust before. It's always the smallest debts that are written off first, and like there's little old me only owed $2,000 compared to the people that are owed a lot more.
Yeah.
And it was like, no, your debt's written off. You can't do anything about it.
And you're like, oh, but who does that actually mean more to? An individual who needs to pay her rent, or a big business who will ride that wave and be fine?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And this is where my housemate was amazing. She's a musician, and she owned the house I lived in, so I was paying her rent, and she went, you know what, I can cover the mortgage for the next couple of months. She was like, don't worry about it.
Wow, that's so
And I was like, that's such a big weight off my shoulders. Because my mum just did things. She was like, I want to help you, but I also need you to be an adult, so I'm not going to bail you out. I was like, the one time I need to be bailed out, Mum. She's like, no, I'm not doing it.
Go figure it out.
Yeah. And it was a really horrible time, actually, because I was desperately looking for work. I wanted something a bit more regular that wasn't just in a pub, because I didn't know when these freelance things would start popping up again, and they generally fell in evenings and weekends. So I started going towards kind of office manager positions and like administrator and things, but because I'd been a project manager, I was overqualified. And I'm like,
wow.
no, I'm not overqualified. I just want to do a job for someone. Please let me.
Yeah.
And then the only job I could get was working in a bar, which was the Old Red Cow, where I met.
And we come back to our story.
Yeah,
Okay.
where I met the lovely Hannah Davison, and she kind of taught me everything I needed to know, and then she went off to work for East London Brewing. And I was like, wait, you can go off and work for breweries? This sounds great. So kind of that was my goal. I did a few different pubs in that time, kind of managing them and sort of buying beer for the pubs I was working in. And then went off travelling for 3 months, came back, got a job with a brewery doing sales. Didn't love it. I'm not a great salesperson.
Yeah, it's not my strength either. Like, I can chat.
Yeah.
But closing that deal.
Yeah. I'm like, you don't have to.
Yeah.
Are you sure you want it? It's not that great.
If you don't, no problem, I'll go. I feel that way too.
Yeah, and it's because I'm a process-driven person. It kind of, for me, it felt like there wasn't anything to do.
Like, where's the next step almost? Yeah, what's the next box to tick?
Just go and have a chat. And I'm like, that's not a task. I can't put that in a spreadsheet. So yeah, and then the job at Box Shop came up. So I just went and worked there, and I was like, oh, amazing, coordination. I have things to do. This is great. I've got processes. I have to do paperwork to make money happen. And that was... Yeah.
And you were back in your happy place after that.
Back in my happy place.
But you still do some event work on the side of your current role. I was just speaking at the Hackney Brewery birthday party the weekend before last, which is an event that you helped to organise. So what are some of the things that you'll do in that capacity? Is it just working with breweries who you know and that you're friends with, or do you also work for
so it's all the beer came through Jolly Good Beer, so it's kind of tying the two things together.
Perfect.
Sat and worked with John Swain from Hackney. I'm like, look, we need to find kind of 9 great breweries to go alongside us. The rule was none of them from London, because I mean, there's some amazing breweries in London that are doing great things, but
we
it's
can
very
access
accessible
those beers all the time. Yeah,
and so it was the Verdant, the Cloudwater, like those are the things we wanted to get down.
Yeah,
and we did that, and it was really fun. It was really nice, just kind of collating that and just being able to put that all together, and also making sure that the beer was looked after from end to end. So every keg that was there had just come out of a cold store. If you ever went behind the bar, you'd see them dripping in condensation, and the beer was cold and the beer was fresh, and it was exactly how it should have been.
So you're getting to make sure the beer is tasting great.
Yes, and I was on site
at that moment. Yes, that's true. Monitoring everything.
Yeah. There was a keg I pulled off for not tasting good enough as well.
Really? Oh wow. Is that something you would check regularly if you go into any of your accounts? Is that more up to the account managers?
Yeah, I don't
need to do
go
that
into
part.
accounts.
Yeah.
Because I'm kind of, I live in Dalston, I work in Haggerston. I tend to try
You've got your little radius around your home.
That's just where I go. And especially with this industry, it's very easy to go out drinking every night.
Yeah.
And I deliberately don't do that. I kind of have a rule where I only drink beer if it's in work hours or if I'm being paid for it. Because otherwise it's every night in the pub and it just gets a bit silly. And I kind of have to put a no on myself, and I tend to just go and do yoga or go to the gym.
Yeah.
Instead of...
Have a reason to check out, stay healthy.
Yeah.
And keep beer as a work thing and not let it get outside those hours.
Yeah.
So where did your love of beer come from? When you first worked at that pub, did you go there because you enjoyed working in beer? That was just sort of a stopgap.
Well, so my previous pub job I'd worked in was a chain of like normal bars, but then they really tried to push the cocktail angle. And I was working with the operations manager to design a cocktail menu, and we designed all of these cocktails between the two of us, and that's where I learned to play with flavour and balance and using my imagination and just creating weird things. And I physically designed the menu as well, so it was full of all these illustrations I did.
Fun.
It was supposed to look like a book.
Okay.
So it had like chapters and illustrations, and
that sounds lovely.
Yeah, I did this big old drawing for Fireball Whiskey that was based on the 7 Circles of Hell.
Okay.
And Paradise Lost, and it had all these angels and demons. It's on the internet somewhere if anyone wants to look on.
All right. Well, if I find it, I'll put it on my social media.
But yeah, so that's kind of where my love of alcohol, I guess, came from, and seeing it as something more than something to drink to get drunk. And I think I've had a lot of problems with friends who don't understand what I do, and they just think I drink all the time and I just drink beer all the time. And it's like, no, I'm really discerning about what I drink, which means I don't actually drink as much.
I know exactly what you mean. I used to drink a lot more when I was having beer as a hobby and sort of trying to get into the industry. But now that I'm in the industry and it's my day-to-day, it's that same thing. I actually drink a lot less. I'm much more considerate about choosing when I drink and what I drink, because otherwise it's around, there's too much temptation and it's just too easy to make an excuse and drink all the time.
Yes, absolutely.
So yeah, being mindful about it, but understanding that it's more than just, we're not just drinking it to get drunk. It's who made it, what's interesting about it.
Yeah, what does it taste like? What does it feel like? What does it look like?
Yeah.
who made this beer? And this is, I think I've had
So you kind of got to discover that side of things and immerse yourself in these brands and design and then go from there.
And because when I was at the Red Cow talking with Hannah, she was like, well, you know cocktails better than I do. She was like, but I know beer, and here this is how they're kind of linked, this is how they're similar.
Okay.
And because I already had the language of flavour, I was able to kind of apply that and understand what people were talking about. Yeah. And then it kind of just took off after that. It was unstoppable.
Yeah, right? You would have try a few different styles. That's how I feel. So many people think beer is just lager or ale, but there's so much more beyond that. But sometimes you do need someone to almost hold your hand and, pour a beer for you, recommend something for you, because you don't want to risk spending money on something you might not like. But if you have a friend almost guiding you through these different flavors.
Hannah was great. I remember there was one Sunday where we did the Sunday roast shift together, which was always horrendous because it was just fully booked.
Sounds manic. Yeah.
Just endless potatoes. I miss those potatoes.
But they're delicious.
They were good potatoes.
Yeah.
And I would I think the day before I'd go to a bottle shop and I'll just pick up 3 bottles and I was like, I don't know what these are. And they'd look interesting or they'd sound interesting. And it, like just judging the book by its cover. Mm-hmm. And then she'd sit and she'd talk me through them and she'd talk me through the ingredients and kind of what IBUs were and what gravity was. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing.
Just geeking out with your professor there. Oh, that is so fun. From your social media, it seems like you do quite a lot of beery travel as well, going to all kinds of different festivals and things.
Yeah.
What got you into that and what's been the best festival that you've been to?
I'm very, very lucky that I get to go and hang out at festivals quite a lot as part of my job.
Oh, that is lucky. Oh, that's
it's
so
really
exciting.
Nice.
So you're scoping out different breweries to potentially...
Yes, always scoping out. Always... With things like Hop City and Dark City, you have so many people coming around from around the world that I've dealt with on a business level. Mm-hmm. That the guys at Northern Monk, because I work with them, they always invite me up there and I can kind of touch base and catch up and have fun with everyone that ordinarily you just talk to over email. And it's really important to have that social contact and kind of break the professional boundary. I don't break the professional boundary.
But just be human.
Just be human, absolutely, and not be like a robot behind a screen.
Yeah.
So I find that, like, especially with domestic festivals, it's just get there, go there, and hang out with people.
Yeah.
And it's nice. Although I have pulled back a bit this year on how many festivals I go to, because last year I was at a lot.
Yeah.
By the end of the summer, I was like, whew.
Is it too much to drink then, or just the exhaustion as well of being away from your day-to-day? And
it's just the exhaustion of the travel and kind of being in unfamiliar places, and you sort of have a few sessions where you're just working and then a session where you'll drink, and the social interaction as well can be quite exhausting. It's very draining talking to people constantly.
Do you go to any just personally out of your own interest, or are they mostly all for work?
Domestic ones mostly all for work. I go to Carnival Brettanomyces every year.
I've heard such good things. I've not been.
The best. I go with a group of friends. It's how I know the Hackney guys, actually, because I met them.
Okay. I
met Darren, the head brewer, over there 4 years ago, and we just sort of just clicked and hung out with him and his mates, and they were so funny and just had the best time hanging out with them. And then subsequently we've gone together every year with different people who've tagged on, and it's a really silly, very special weekend, because the beauty of Carnival Brettanomyces is that it's not in one place. It's all the different bars over Amsterdam, all these different events, all these talks and lectures and tastings, and you can kind of get as involved and uninvolved as you like. So you can go to lectures on cultivating your own yeast and like molesting strawberries to get a particular type of yeast out of them. It gets really nerdy. I remember being in one of my first year being like, I have absolutely no reason to be here.
You're like, where are the Brett beers? Let me just go drink the beers.
Can I try them?
I don't know if I need this lecture. Yeah.
But then it's really interesting because you see people who do know this, and hearing people talk passionately about it it's so nice.
Yeah.
This year, we did a tasting with Jeremy from the brewery in California.
Oh wow, that's exciting.
And it was his wine beer hybrids, that 51% beer, 49% wine.
Okay.
And that was so educational. I learned so much about wine on that.
Are they a blend?
They're blended, yeah.
Okay. Oh, that's interesting.
So it will be something like a Pickpool grape blended with alambic, aged in a barrel.
Oh wow, there's a lot going on there.
There's a
lot. That sounds really interesting though.
And their red wine and stout blends were just, oh my god, they're amazing. There was one that just tasted like Ribena.
Oh,
yeah, it's really boozy adult Ribena.
Nice. Grown-up Ribena.
This is the thing I love about Carnival Brettanomyces. They get all these really special beers from around the world. They're in one city for one weekend, and all the brewers are there, and it's just a silly, silly time, and everyone's really friendly. And because you're in Amsterdam, everyone's on holiday, and even the people who are there on business are on holiday. And yeah, that's kind of the big one that I do for me every year. And I go with my friends, and obviously I'll still be Amber from whatever company I'm working for, and there will always be an element of business to what I'm doing. Yeah. Because I work in beer and I'm drinking beer. Yeah. I'm always very clear, like, look, I can't get too much into this. I am on holiday, but if someone wants to have a gossip, I will join in. Love a gossip.
But clearly that one sounds like your favourite.
Yeah, it is my favourite.
Special memories there. Yeah. Nice.
Also the stuff that Northern Monk do, Hop City and Dark City are just great fun.
I've still never been to Leeds, let alone any of their festivals.
Leeds
I know.
is great.
I know, and I've lived here for 4 years now, so I need to sort that out. No, literally. Have you taken any of that stuff home? Do you do any home brewing or any sort of experimentation, or you leave it to the professionals?
I don't.
I've tried home brewing once and I hated it, so I leave it to the professionals.
Yeah. My brother's a home brewer.
Oh, fun.
He's actually quite good.
Nice.
Yeah,
Did you get him into beer, or did...
No.
Okay, so you both just found it separately and...
Yeah,
have a shared passion.
My brother's an engineer, so I think when he was at university, he just built his own kit out of, like, elements and saucepans. As you do.
Well, I can imagine you making one with your set design. Maybe yours wouldn't be functional, but it would look good.
Oh, it would look amazing. It's so shiny. Not watertight.
Yeah,
definitely don't heat it up, guys.
You wouldn't use it on the set, no.
So he discovered that. So my brother was always quite beery. Then I got my little brother into beer as well. I made him come and work with me at one of the pubs I was running.
Oh, nice.
Because he didn't have a job, and I was just fed up, and I was like, you're coming to work for me. And this was...
I'm sure your mom loved that whenever she was like, I'm teaching you a lesson. And then you're like, and I'm going to teach you a lesson, brother. Well,
it backfired a little bit, because this was the sister pub to Old Red Cow, the Hack and Hop. Okay. And I was managing that. So I got Zach, my little brother, involved. And he'd be like, right, Zach, can you go and fill up the ice? He'd be like, why can't you do it?
No.
And I'm like...
Worst employee ever.
Because I need to change 4 lines, Zach. He said, well, you're going downstairs anyway. Right, I'm transferring you. You can go work with Hannah.
Yeah, you would not get that from a different employee.
Yeah, so it didn't quite work. But he stuck to it, and kind of he got into it. And my poor dad, he's just an imported lager drinker. But now... every Christmas and birthday, it's just, here are these amazing expensive beers. Yeah. He doesn't quite know what to do with it.
Yeah, I've done that to my whole family as well. Like even my mom, she's not a beer drinker, and I'm still like, but Mom, you'll like this one.
Yeah, still really struggling with my mum.
Yeah.
I'm like, try this sour beer, and she's like, no, it tastes like sour beer.
Yeah, the one beer that my mom loved was from Ballast Point, and it's their... I think it's called like Shipwrecked or something like that, or Lost at Sea. I don't know. It's some very strong, very boozy imperial stout with cacao nibs and vanilla. Yeah. And my mom was like, it tastes like an iced coffee. My dad was like, with loads of booze in it. But yeah, she really liked that one. So maybe if your mom likes coffee or iced coffee, that could be a way in.
Just try her on that. She does make amazing cakes with beers I give her as well.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So you've ever had a stout cake?
Yes. Lottie Peplow made one for me because she's very big into food and beer pairing, and she made one.
So I used, the last one me and my mum did was for my big brother's 30th, a few years ago now. But I had, the first time Beaver Town did heavy water and it was bottled, I had that, and I'd had that for about 4 years, 5 years, something, I don't know, timeline.
Yeah.
Really long time. And I went, let's put it in a cake. So we put it in this chocolate cake and did like a really like vanilla-y, creamy icing on top.
Oh, that sounds amazing.
And yeah, it was great. So you really got the cherry and the sea salt through that, and the fact that it's just been aging away, God knows what percentage it was.
Yeah, right, they're quite strong, so a beer like that would age well. That doesn't necessarily need to be refrigerated, but most other hoppy beers keep those cool.
Keep hold of that one.
Yeah. And what else are you much of a baker? No, that was just a one-time thing. I was going to ask what else you get up to outside of beer, because I know you mentioned yoga, you focus a lot on exercise, but are there other hobbies or things you do?
I really like walking. Walking's been a thing I do a lot. So my other half lives up in North Wales, so I go up and see him. So we do a lot of walking there, and then we do a lot of walking in London as well. Like we'll do like a 12k trek around London.
Oh my goodness!
Just to like point out all the history and tell him stories.
That's fun.
What other things do I like doing? I don't know, I feel, especially in an industry where you're sat down and then like when alcohol's involved, keeping yourself active and especially being mindful with the things you're doing as exercise is really good for you. So running has been great for me. I was very influenced by the beer runners of Twitter.
Yeah, there are plenty.
Yeah. After watching Rebecca Payne run her marathon, I was like, wow, I can't do that. But I'm going to just...
But I'm inspired to do a little bit. Yeah.
And like Matt Curtis has been great as well, and Ollie Clark. Everyone's been giving me this amazing support. So that's something that only I can do. It's literally me battling against myself to get better at something as simple as running. And I do it on my own. I've invited friends with me a few times. But it's like a one-person battle. Or a challenge.
Yeah. And that you just have to get over whatever you're telling yourself in your own head.
Yeah, so I do a lot of that. But yeah, no, never bake. One of my best friends was a professional baker, so I'm like, can't be
you've
that,
got someone else to do it for you. Yeah, perfect. It's funny you say sort of you discovered running through Twitter, because I think a lot of people often think beer Twitter can be quite negative, but it's amazing you've discovered this positive.
Just mute people.
Yeah,
I've muted so many people, just mute and block. I'm like,
And then it keeps it a happy place.
Yeah,
a happy and inspiring and positive place.
There are certain people that do just put out negativity constantly, and it's really hard to just take that in, so just mute them.
I like that.
Yeah.
I don't need to hear from you. Moving on.
Yeah. I got blocked by a beer writer a few years ago, and oh god, just not seeing him on my timeline is brilliant.
I'm like, thanks, you did me a favour. Fantastic.
It's like, I can always just log into my business one to see what they have to say.
To go have a snoop.
Being problematic again, cool.
They've stayed the same. Yeah, that's really funny. Are there things that you miss about the theatre world and sort of the space that you were in before, or have you brought the bits that you like to what you're doing in beer, being able to keep that creativity there, the project management sense?
Yeah, I do miss the creativity. There's not a lot I do now that involves that. When I was at the bottle shop, obviously we had the venues, and I was always able to feed ideas into things we could do there and kind of be like, why don't we do this thing with this brewery, and we can do all of this stuff
and
around
tastings.
it. Yeah,
okay, cool.
That was quite a nice thing to do. Events is kind of where my real love is. It always has been. Like, I love throwing a party. And I am fortunate enough that I do still do a fair amount of that outside work. I do freelance as a cocktail bartender for private events.
Okay.
I'm involved in the scenic in that as well, which is really nice. I think Halloween last year, I had a day dressing the offices for a big Halloween kids party.
Oh my goodness.
And then the next day I was painting pumpkins with all these kids who were dressed up with their parents, and it was a really fun. They're hard work, they're long days.
Yeah,
but they're really fun. I'm lucky enough to be able to keep that going alongside what I do, which is very admin focused. In
a little side business.
Yeah.
And dip into the fun party planning
self
that you are. Yeah. Are there any other things you wanted to talk about before I ask you my last question?
Yeah, I think the time we are at the moment in the beer industry is it's a really interesting time. There's a lot that's changing.
In what sense?
Things like buyouts don't seem to bother people anymore, whereas a few years ago it was the worst thing you could do. And you have all these big beer companies coming in and taking the spaces of the smaller guys, and it feels like 5 years ago that we were all sold this dream of independence and
like
the
it
love.
It could be like this forever.
And it's like, we're going to do it. We're going to make sure that craft beer's on every corner, that you can get like an amazing pint of pale ale in every pub. We can now because people have sold to Heineken. And those lines have been taken away from independent, genuine independent and local, and been replaced with these brands that look, I'm doing air quotes, but you can't see because it's a podcast, that look craft. I hate the word craft. It's just got such a weird
it means
thing
nothing
about it.
now.
It doesn't mean anything. And these consumers that aren't savvy, that don't have time, that it's not a passion, but they know that they enjoy a hoppier beer, they know they're enjoying beer with flavour.
Yeah.
And they just see something that looks like it's independent, and it's not. And that's kind of, those brands have taken the space of the independents.
And is that a conscious choice at Jolly Good Beer that you will only work with independent businesses or breweries? So if a brewery is bought out, does that affect your work in the sense that you'll no longer buy from a certain brewery?
No, not at all. We stopped Beaver Town up until very recently. There is a blog post on why we stopped stocking Beaver Town. They were simply favouring other distribution companies with bigger discounts over us.
Okay.
And then they were kind of encouraging the other distribution companies to undercut us, which is...
It's just poor business practice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
And we kind of
frustrating.
went, you don't want us to be selling for you, so why are we...
So we won't stock your product. So it wasn't a conscious decision as soon as they were acquired that you needed to make those changes.
Yeah.
But it's just something that matters to you personally.
Yeah, and we've
the
noticed
idea
that
of
these,
independence. And
these brands drop off sales, and it's like I said at the very beginning, distributors aren't charities. We don't have to buy your beer if it's not going to sell. We don't owe you anything to simply buy a pallet if it's going to sit there in our warehouse and, I say rot, very slowly rot, because it's cold and beer doesn't do anything when it's cold.
Just age, tire, I like to say.
Retire,
Beer
really
will tire
slowly.
slightly, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I understand when people sell out. What bothers me is when companies try and disguise it and they're like, oh, it's for the good of the company, it's these people, and it's all, obviously, you're tired. You've been running this business for however long. You're tired of fighting, and you've kind of just like, yeah,
You want your
why
exit.
not? Yeah. Someone's offering you 10 million for your company. I'll take it. I could go on holiday. Really nice.
All
buy
the
a
time.
house.
Back to France all the time.
And it's kind of, I always want a bit more honesty and a bit more openness from people, if you know what I mean. What's really nice about this industry is that the smaller independent distributors, we all talk to each other. I'm great friends with Chris from New Wave and Zach from Beer Paradise, and we do chat, and we're able to kind of warn each other about things, or kind of ask each other's opinions and help each other, and it's a really nice, because we're all in different areas. There's never a conflict of interest, so that is good. And it's sort of having a chat with those, it's like it's a worrying time. It's like, who's going to go down next, who's going to go down next, who's going to get brought up next. And
I suppose I'm always the optimist, so I'm like, well, does that mean that some newer business is going to start that you are going to notice and bring in next and make the new hot thing?
Hopefully.
So, but like you said, maybe we do get to this point of almost that beer bubble, as people talk about, where fewer new and interesting breweries start opening.
Yeah.
If bigger players then just keep taking over the market.
Absolutely. And if the bigger guys just keep snapping up those lines and keep snapping up that shelf space, then the smaller guys don't have anywhere to go. And then it becomes a lot more difficult for independent bottle shops to be pushing these people, because why should we go into an independent bottle shop when I can just go to Asda and get some like Brewdog and Sierra Nevada, and I don't care that it's been sat on a warm shelf, because I don't know that
Any different.
I don't know any different.
Yeah, and the prices are really low, and
and
if
I'm
that's
like, yeah,
what's going to
if
make
you're
you
a
make your decision.
consumer, why not?
Yeah.
Like hunkering down and kind of looking around me and being like, how can I make sure all my decisions I make are safe for the business, financially viable, and kind of keep everything in momentum, if that makes sense.
Yeah. So how would you say it impacts your day to day? You're just being that little bit more conscious of what beers you're bringing in, where they're going, and
and it's
making sure you work to support those independent businesses.
And as simple as, if that cask doesn't sell within 3 weeks, I don't buy it again. And I will quite often have to then just write off the brewery, and I'm like, I'm sorry, I've had 2 of your lines stay in my warehouse for over 6 weeks. I can't do that anymore. This industry's too cutthroat. It's too small for the amount of people that are working in it versus the amount of consumers. And a lot of the consumers are the people that work in the industry. But pushing towards commercialisation, like Brewdog have done this. They are the independent, I mean, they're huge, but they are the ones that everyone went, that's craft beer. And they're kind of the reason why we're all doing it now. But then you have the people that go, well, I'm just going to sell to Heineken. It boosts me up 3 stages, and I don't really have to work for it anymore. And then it changes, and then they take up the space, and it's like, oh, that's a craft beer. Oh, I don't know, I've never heard of that one before, because it's a new brewery. I'll just stick to neck oil. And you're like, oh, yeah.
People don't want to take that risk sometimes. Yeah.
Sad.
Yeah, it's quite challenging. Well, before we go any further down the negative route, why don't I ask my last question?
Yes.
Which is, what do you enjoy most about being a part of the beer industry? And then hopefully that will leave us all positive with the reason of why we're here and what we love about it, regardless of what happens in the future.
Well, yeah.
So what do you enjoy about being part of beer?
A bit of a downer, I'm sorry for anyone listening. I do love beer. I love this industry. I love the people. It's such great people. All of my best friends now are beer people. And if they're not beer people, they're people who enjoy drinking beer with me.
They've become beer people
They've
because
become
of you.
beer people, yeah. So I've got one mate down in Brighton and he was vaguely into beer and now he's really into beer because he has no
you
other
got the
choice.
whole family in. Exactly.
Yeah, all the family, everyone is great. It's a great network of support. It's actually one industry that you can talk about your mental health quite openly, and people are there to catch you. People are there to support you, which is, I had a bit of a meltdown last year, and the amount, and when I put it publicly and when just everyone, I'm not having a great time, the amount of people that reached out to me and gave me either their time or a phone call or just a message being like, got your back, or just like an extra hug the next time I saw them. It's a really unique industry. I've never worked in any other businesses that do that have this network of people that we're all directly in competition with each other, technically.
Yeah.
But we all hang out and we all have a great time and we all support each other's businesses and
genuinely like each other.
Genuinely like each other, yeah. And it's such a faceted industry as well, because you have the brewers and you have the salespeople and you have the drivers and you have the brewery owners and you have people like me in distribution, and then you've got the writers and you've got the drinkers, and when everyone can kind of mix all together, you just got such a lovely environment. Like, I don't know if you felt it at the Hackney party on Saturday, but it was just a really lovely feeling.
Yeah, it was just all the people you wanted to be there. And then it was at the Jeffrey, at this museum, so in their outdoor space, and it felt very community-based and community-focused, so not just the beer people, but also just the locals who were in that area. Yeah, it really brought everyone together. It was a nice celebration. Yeah.
And that's like you've said the C word, community, it's a global community of beer people, which is, it's really nice, and it's really important that I know I can pick up the phone to someone in New York and we can have a chat about beer as well as I can to Dan, who sits next to me in the office. And it's something fun, and we kind of all need to remember that, like, it's giggle juice. It's
I love that.
Yeah. It's something that humans have bonded over for forever. It's fermented stuff.
I think I want to make that my quote for this episode. It's giggle juice, and that's it.
I think I stole that from Hannah Davidson.
All right, we'll quote that. We'll give the recognition to Hannah. Okay, well, we'll just keep on giggling then and have a little bit more. So thanks for that. There's lots to love about being in beer.
There's lots to love about being in beer. Thank you very much for having me.
Awesome. Thanks for chatting with me. Thanks for sitting down to chat with me, Ember. I really appreciate hearing your perspective from the behind-the-scenes world of beer distribution. Come on back next week to hear from Miranda Hudson, co-founder of Duration Brewing. If you're enjoying what you're hearing, please do leave me a rating or review on Apple Podcasts, as it helps new listeners to find the show. Thanks, and chat soon.